The bears starting to take back hold of the market again as Bitcoin continues to fall, now below 41,000. Guys, welcome to Empire Trading Academy. Hit the like, hit the subscribe if you have not already. And let's get right into this. Technicals first, then we're getting into some on-chain data. So if you guys are subscribed, you watched the video yesterday, you know that we were up at resistance at 45,000. Okay, this has been the trading range that we've been in now, you know, for a couple months between 46 and 33,000, right? Going back and forth, testing resistance, testing support. Now, yesterday, again, if you guys are subscribed, you saw the video. We were looking at this distribution top. We had shorts on this move, and now we're coming back down to the middle of this range, right? Now where we're trying to find support. The bulls are fighting at this level at 40,000, trying to stay above this $40,000 level. Okay. But you know that we talked about this distribution top. Okay. And this can be very, very reliable if you're looking for short trades or if you're just looking for the direction of the market. Okay. And so these are typically a distribution or selling point at the tops of moves. And that's exactly what we got. Okay. Now, what are we going to do when we are here? Bulls are obviously going to want to maintain this level to push us back up and retest. We've seen that before, right? We had the test here. We had a sell off down to just under 42 before we retested this again and then retraced to test the bottom of the lows of the range, right? So it's possible we get something like that. Okay. The only thing that I would say here is that we hung out up at this resistance for a while, right? So we tested it here, came back down slightly, tested this descending trend line that we'll go ahead and talk about in a second. And then we retested it again, right? Bounced off this trend line, tried to make another move up, failed, found a lower low before we retested again without much momentum and ultimately retested the lows there, right? Here, we're just basically testing it once, distribution top immediately and selling off to the middle of our range. Okay. Now, is it possible? Yeah, it's definitely possible that we go ahead and we retest again, or even just put in a lower high right from here. That's definitely possible. But we need to take all things into account. We've tested this resistance multiple times now. The bulls are taking back over, or the bears are taking over as we come up to this level each and every time. You have to look at the economic uncertainty right now. The NASDAQ sold off today, right in the first half of the day. And so we're just going to play this level by level. If we go ahead and get a break, possibly we get some sort of a retest on this, right, before we go ahead and retest the lows, right? Or again, we can go ahead and possibly put in maybe some type of inverse head and shoulders and retrace the high there. Okay, all that, but nobody knows exactly where it's going to go. And so we want to just play each and every level and look at price structure as it forms to get an indication of where we're going, right? Okay. Now, one thing I want to point out before we go a little bit into more macro, guys, I want to take a look at Polkadot during this same time. Okay. And this is why we primarily trade alts instead of Bitcoin. We really take a look and watch what Bitcoin is doing. And so if we get a bearish pattern on Bitcoin, we'll look for a short opportunity on alts as long as the price structure on the alts makes sense, right? So let's take a look at Polkadot for a second. Okay. Now, we've shorted this multiple times, okay, in the past couple days. All right. Now, what we saw here is even if we have a resistance level here, right, this is our supply zone, but even if you want to take that away, okay, what we're looking at is we have a big support level, okay, and we put in a high, okay, we put in another high here, right? And if we look at the 4 hour, you can see it a little bit better. Put in a high, put in a higher high here. Now, on these, we have slight negative divergence. Okay, that means that this move is weakening. All right. We go back to the 1 hour. We have this, we're putting in higher lows, right? Okay, but at the same time that this is happening, we're getting into this bearish divergence here. Okay, we're getting into this bearish divergence, which just means that this is weakening. These impulse moves up are weakening. Okay, and so we looked at this as a big short opportunity. Okay, now mostly because you had that distribution top on Bitcoin, right, at the same time. And so we said, okay, well, this is perfect. Okay, we also looked at Sandbox the other day, same exact thing. And so we put in, now we look at this. Okay, you could call that a head and shoulders, right? We go ahead and put this here. Okay, now we kind of just trickled off and slowly sold off, right? But this was happening at the same time as a clear distribution on Bitcoin. Okay, now we have an overall more macro bearish divergence over this top and this top. And so the overall sentiment of this move and coming to the top here is weakness. Okay, and so then you have the distribution top on Bitcoin, and there's a lot of weakness at the top of this move. Okay, and then you saw the resistance that we had up top. Okay, and so this is making more and more sense, right? And then what do we see? We get this slow trickle, and then we go ahead and we break to the downside of these higher lows. All right, and so hopefully that makes sense, guys. In our opinion, in these type of markets, it's much just such a greater probability of shorts working in your favor and profiting from shorts than longs in this market. Okay, clear obvious weakening on these upward moves, right? We have some bearish patterns. Okay, so all of those make sense. Okay, that's setting yourself up for a higher probability trade. Now let's see if we were to go long, right? Why would we take a long position here? Right? Why would we take a long position? Okay, possibly you had this trend line drawn out, which is probably unlikely, but possibly you did. Okay, we retested it here before we broke through. Okay, and we came down and end tested here. However, guys, there's nothing here that indicates a reversal, right? Okay, even if we go a little bit lower time frame on the 1 hour, there's no reversal pattern, right? More textbook reversal pattern there. There's no positive divergence giving an indication of a reversal. And so, yeah, possibly you can get that move, but it's way less of a probability just a way lower risk to reward ratio coming from the long here than seeing clear weakness at the tops of moves and go ahead and taking a short position. So hopefully that makes sense, guys. That's why we're shorting in this market, and we are profiting greatly from it. Now, if we look more macro, right? So you know that we're looking at the weekly chart. Okay, we're looking at the weekly, and we're looking at this descending trend line, right? You know, again, resistance, support, resistance. Okay, and then when we were up here retesting this $45,000 supply zone, right? We said, okay, this is great, but we have a little bit more than 3 days. And we need to watch where this closes. Okay, now we're underneath 3 days, a little bit more than 2 days, and look what we're doing. Now, again, bears have taken over above this trend line to push this back down. Okay, and so it's very, very, very clear that this area, guys, very clear that this area is being defended by the bears very, very well. Okay. And so hence the reason why we have this trading range is because the bulls are defending this, the bears are defending this and this trend line. Okay. Remember, we are in a greater downtrend. And so also the reason why we take short positions right now is because we are in a downtrend. Okay. Unless we flip key levels, then we're going to change our bias. Okay. But you want to stack all of these confluences in your favor to give you the highest probability of winning trades. Okay. But this is what we're doing right now. We have a little bit less than 3 days, right, to see what this weekly candle does. If we go ahead and close under this, definitely going to be bearish again, and we'll retest the lows. Okay, so that's what we're looking for. Still, if bulls are going to take over this by some miracle, right, they're going to flip this 46, and then we go ahead and we push higher. All right, so that's what we're looking for. Now, let's take a look at 2 on-chain metrics. First, we're looking at the whales and what they were doing. We saw that they were selling off like crazy, right, yesterday, and then no real buying since. Okay, little bit, but then we drop back down. Okay, so they're not looking at this at this level, right, at 40,000. They're not looking at this as a buy the dip moment. Okay, and one other piece of on-chain data, guys, is our hodlers. Okay, and long-term holders are accumulating as well. But hodlers, we get this massive spike in this hodler net position change. Okay, and so these guys that are they're in the same group as long-term holders, they're accumulating at this time. Okay, and a big spike, unlike anything we've ever seen. Right off the bat. Which is crazy. They're looking at this as a great opportunity to buy. Now, these guys, as we have learned over the past year and a half, right? These guys are not good at picking tops and bottoms, okay? Or really dictating or giving a good sense of trend. All they're doing is looking at specific prices as, hey, is this a good buy opportunity to hold long term? Okay? Because you'll see if we go back 2 years, right? They're distributing here. Obviously, they're distributing into strength because they bought probably at the low of the bear market, and now that we're starting to make highs, they're going to go ahead and sell, right? But here, right, they're starting to accumulate at the top of this distribution top, right? They're starting to accumulate there. Okay. And then again here, kind of in the middle of this downtrend, they're starting to accumulate again, right? As price just continues to go down and down. So they're only looking at, hey, is this a good value for Bitcoin for me in the long term? And if they say yes, then they're going to go ahead and buy. But this does not necessarily mean, hey, the bottom is in. They're great at dictating bottoms or tops or anything like that. Okay, so we need to be careful with hodlers and long-term holders. All right, guys. Hopefully that gives you some good info. Please let us know if you have any questions about crypto, Bitcoin, or trading specifically, and we'll see you in the next video.